Hey guys, I just went out and cut about 1.25 inches off my little solid copper billet, and I wanted to try it out on film, just talk about the differences. And it was a little bit longer. I found myself having to use the edge of it like this because I couldn't get that wrist movement in there and work with the front of it because the back was too long. It was sticking past my palm way out here, and you find yourself using the edge of it more. So it was coning out real bad, and I went out there and I hammered it back down flat, and then I dressed it around the edge, dressed that lip back off there so you can kind of see the contours of it. It was pretty dinged up too, so I dressed around the edge of it. But I think I'm gonna like it a lot more because it's just more comfortable to hold. So this will be my first time trying it. Let's see how it goes. This is a piece of Wahi jasper that I just heat treated. So see how it does. And this is just finger tabs for shooting a bow. It's light leather, pretty comfortable. Helps keep me from getting cut. That's where I always get cut on. You only use mainly this inside of this finger here, and sometimes this one. My pinky gets it too, but not as bad as the other ones. Probably use more heat. It's still pretty dry, but it might just stay dry. It might not get glossy. Some of it I'm sure probably doesn't. It's easier to nap. It's a lot softer than it was, so hopefully we get some really neat patterns in there. This stuff comes from Oregon, I think. Pretty sure. Maybe more states than that, I'm not sure, but I know I was reading it comes from Oregon. So we got a square edge to contend with over here. We can kind of thin in from this square edge though. If we play our cards right, I kind of need to reserve this for a little bit finer work. Something just a little bit larger. Let's try this. That extra mass will really help drive those flakes through there and thin this thing out. Whoops. So I just hit on top of that thing and kind of broke that edge away. Just to remove, because that's what I wanted to get rid of. So kind of an odd way of hitting the edge, getting a flake, but it works sometimes. That edge is turned up this way, and that's why that flake isn't wanting to release. Watch this. If I didn't crack or put any cracks in that edge too bad, this should work. That should have turned it beveled. The very edge is now beveled the other way. It's going back down this direction. So let me try it again. Hit it, same spot. Only difference is the edge was turned the other direction. Just the very edge, and it took the flake. Makes a big difference. There's a little kind of a bump on top of this platform here. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Still a little bit of a bump on there, but not as bad as it was. So I kind of hit right straight into that edge. Pow. Took that flake, removed that thickness. Looks like most of the cool stuff's going on over on this side. In that case, let me take a little material from this other side. Need to get one more there. That should turn me enough. Come back that way. Able to really get those flakes to remove that thickness that I want, because I'm using surface support and I'm directing that force and I'm adjusting my edge. You know, the edge is the way I want it before I hit it. I'm not opportunistically hitting what's available, although I do that a lot. I'm finding that it's much harder to the whole process is much less predictable when you're trying to do it opportunistically. And I napped just strictly like that in the beginning, because I thought, well, if I just nap opportunistically and hit what's there, I'll eventually figure out what works and what don't, right? That would only make sense. You do something 1,000 friggin' hours, but it doesn't necessarily work like that with napping. You kind of got to know what's going on. I mean, you'll figure some stuff out, but you're never going to figure out the support and the contours and stuff without having a little bit of help, I guess. Is the way I feel about it. So I've had help from several people, but getting off track here. The more you prepare your edge, all your predictability comes from your edge. Once that flake leaves the edge out here, it's getting less and less predictable with what it's doing. But you can predict what happens out here next to the edge because you have control over it. But you got to know what to do, you know, what to make it look like. And if you're just starting out, Go back and watch a bunch of other videos and then come back to this one. But no, it takes a while, and you have to develop that muscle memory, and it just takes a lot of practice, you know. But I am leaning more away from the random opportunistic flaking and more towards at least preparing my edge more and isolating platforms. Because when you isolate your platforms, not necessarily even isolating platforms, just adjusting your edge can make things go so much more smoothly. So much more smoothly. And slowing down. I need to slow down. I know I always feel like I'm rushed when I'm doing these videos and stuff, but I do slow down sometimes when I'm napping by myself without filming, and that's why some of that stuff looks so much better than what I do on film. But anyways, let's keep going, try to see what we can do with this thing. Just some quick thoughts on the opportunistic versus, what would you call that? Not controlled flaking, prepared flaking, maybe. I think old JC was calling it contrived flaking. Basically meaning the same thing versus opportunistic. But the kicker is you have to figure out how much abrasion your edge needs for the tool you're using. If you're using something big, heavy like this, you need a broader, duller platform that's maybe a little bit lower. You know, you don't have to get carried away. It doesn't have to be like 2/3 of the way down and sticking out an 1/8 inch and 3/16 wide and be faceted. You don't have to do all that. You just any effort to make the edge look better than it probably does to begin with is going to result in a better flake. Almost every time is what I found when I first started preparing the edge a little bit more. And anyways, so I'll get off my horse about that deal. But if you guys haven't seen the very last video I put on about before this one, go back and check it out. I was hunting this weekend with a friend of mine with his red-tailed hawk, and we had a blast, man. Had an absolute blast. Killed all kind of stuff, squirrels and rabbits. We even got a chicken. That was a roadkill though. Picked a squirrel up off the road too, but that thing, he gets roadkill if it's fresh. He'll get it to feed his hawk. And we got a squirrel and a chicken riding around. There was people hitting stuff left and right. We picked that chicken up, and I looked over across this guy's yard, and he was standing there by his chicken coop. he was sitting there, it looked like he was sitting there counting his chickens, trying to figure out what happened to one of them. And my buddy reached out and pulled that chicken up and threw it in the back of the bed of his truck, and slung it up over the cab and I said, "Hey, that guy's sitting there looking at you." And he hollered over there, and he seen him standing there, and he said, "Hey, you want that chicken?" And then the guy said something, and my buddy said, "I'm going to feed it to my hawk." The guy said something else, and my buddy pulled off. And I said, "What'd that guy say?" And he said, I said, "In other words, you didn't understand him." He's like, "Nope." But we picked a fox squirrel up, and that thing, man, it was big as chicken was. Biggest fox squirrel I ever seen. I'm just gonna bring this edge in here. Go ahead and lose some of this width. You see how I kind of space those out? That'll leave these areas protruding out, and that's where your ridges are. I don't even have to look. I already know. You know, that's where they're at. So I could go ahead and take another flake there and flatten that out more, which is probably what I'll do, at least up here, to bring that down a little bit. Or I could turn, start working back. I probably need to at least get rid of that overhang. I'll just take some little short ones. You can just nip away the platforms and conserve that width if you want. Let me switch back to my other little copper billet I was trying. That platform was kind of crooked and the edge was so high it put a crack in. That flake cracked right there. Put a radial fracture in it. Or there might have been a crack in it already, I don't know. Come on. More of these shorter flakes are really important as far as preparing your edge, and these are just as important as the big ones. Like I said, that's the most important area, is right, that 1/4 inch right along the edge. That was bad. That was bad. Come on. This tool's gonna take a little getting used to. There's some step fractures right here on this side of this ridge, but I think, what should I do here? Let me come back to that. I was gonna say, if I can hit off to the edge, I can probably get that flake to go through, but at the very least, I can lower that edge a little bit. Get a better angle on that. I can get a flake in here and then come in and take care of the rest of it. Like that. Still didn't really get up over the hill, did it? Come on, baby. Yes. Thank you. I think he's got a step fracture right on the surface in front of the edge there. So I already know what's going to happen if I hit it right there. It's going to step again. So I'll just come in here and take a little flake. I'll bring the edge right up to that step fracture. Now I can hit it and hopefully drive it off there. That flake kind of went that direction. Come on. There it went. Whoops. Still kind of using the edge of this thing. I think it's because how I'm used to using it. Man, I'm gonna have to put this thing down. I need a little practice with that one. Pretty wild contours going on right now. Kind of dished out over here, humped up over here, so I got to take some of this down and come over and come back at it on this side. So I went ahead and just brought that tip way down so it kind of straightened it out. Now I can just come back and hit this a little bit. So when you start getting more refined, this is where you need to really start slowing down. Or I need to start really slowing down. Every flake gets more and more important. Just trying to regularize the edge and not step any of my little normalizing flakes here. It's pretty thin. It's getting there anyways. So I almost lost control of that preform with those big crazy flakes, but I was able to bring it back in there. This will make a really cool little Dalton or something. Something kind of narrow and thin. Sneak one right up in here. I'll have this thing whooped. Okay. Where we at? 28 minutes? It's not too bad. Do a little pressure work on it. Clean it up a little bit. Sorry, Noodle. Did I wake you up? Hang with me, guys. So we'll take this whitetail antler and go around and just clean off these big old deltas. Big old hairy step fracture right there. So I've found I've been able to do a lot of my prep edge adjusting when I'm pressure flaking with the antler. Instead of having to grind the edge, you can just do a little shearing with the antler, usually back in the other direction, and it prepares that edge enough for you, or dulls it enough, or lowers it enough. Whatever you're trying to do, usually all three. Or you might need to sharpen it a little bit. It might be too dull. In that case, you want to kind of work into it from the side, usually. I'm able to work with a much more blunt surface on my tool than I thought I was going to be able to with antler. I was trying to use a real fine tip for a while, and it's not really about that. It's just kind of how you place that shoulder on the edge. Make a good purchase. I have a lot more thoughts on the opportunistic versus pre-planned or methodical, or however you want to say it. Thought out flaking, edge adjusted, prepared flaking, I guess you should say. Contrived, prepared, whatever. Pre-thought out, premeditated. But so I'm gonna be talking about that some more on the next videos, and maybe do a dedicated video to the subject. Yep, it's definitely Monday morning, so we'll get this one uploaded, and hopefully have some more coming soon. Thanks everybody for subscribing and watching and liking and commenting and all that good stuff. I sure appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one.